How is everybody doing, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to continue working on my truck and going to get the rear man seal replaced and also get the flywheel back in and start getting the clutch back together. I do have all of that there. I have to get unloaded and find a place for. Maybe my wife is gonna have to park outside for a while until I get things cleaned up and out of the way, but I guess such is life. Like I said, I need a shop. Get everything ready to go here and crawl under there and start tearing things apart to get that replaced. And start getting some of this stuff back on the truck. So I still got to get my transmission out from underneath the truck so I can get it pressure washed off and maybe throw some paint on it. I also picked up some other stuff today. I want to get this cut too. I'm going to go ahead and you can see this line right here. I'm going to leave that hole there because it does bolt. There's an eyelet for the wiring harness that I can bolt back to, but I am going to follow that line. I am just going to go ahead and make my own block off plate. It's not that hard. If you got a cutting wheel, it's right there. All you got to do is follow the lines, cut it out, and you have your block off plate. It's not seen at all, really. It's kind of hidden down in there, so there's really no sense for me to order that Keating Machines, billet aluminum one. I just can't justify. The gasket for it is actually a small block Chevy lift pump gasket also. You can see that lines up perfect with that. So if you need a gasket for it, just go pick up the small block Chevy gasket and that will work for you too. You don't have to worry about ordering one. They have a mechanical fuel pump that works off the cam. I think it's the cam. Maybe it's the crank. I'm not certain. Anyway, it works off one of those to run their mechanical pump, and a lot of guys will get the same block off plate. Actually, if you want to buy your own, you can probably run right to one of your auto parts stores. If you don't want to cut it out, like I have the ability to do here, you can run right to one of your auto parts stores and pick that same block off plate up at your local auto parts. A lot of them places have the section where you can buy little dress-up kits and stuff like that, and just and buy that. So if that's something you could do also, I'm just going to utilize what I have instead of spending any more money, because there's some other stuff that I want to spend money on. So that $20 is going to save me from buying some other stuff. I did pick up some plugs too. I believe they're in the house yet. I haven't brought them out. That I need a new one for this, and also my factory feed to get that plugged off and get my fuel tank back in the truck, along with trying to get everything put back together. So I guess right now we'll crawl under there and start disassembling even more. I got this bracket here, and this is kind of what I'm thinking on this bracket right here. If you look at it, I'm gonna take my silver pencil like I used on his bike the other day, and I'm just gonna draw me a line and follow this outside edge as it was on the truck. And then I'm just going to come and cut it off, just kind of round it off right here like that. Because like I said, I want to leave this tab on here and utilize it for that factory harness. And then we'll just bring this up here like this. Something like that. Or actually what you could do also is take the gasket, if you wanted a truer, straighter line, and hold that gasket up there like this and use that to draw your line if you so choose. And then you would just hold this in place like this You got both your holes lined up like so. Hold your gasket in place and use that for your straight line. Just like that. You know, you can do that too. You get the drift. It's kind of hard to do holding the camera and up here like this. So that's what I'm going to cut out, and then I'll clean it up accordingly. And like I said, I'll leave that hole. One other thing, there was a comment in the fleece install, and I should have mentioned this. I didn't even think about it. The guy mentioned that whenever you're using O-rings, use your corresponding lubricant for said O-ring, because say like I was using my coolant, so what I should have done was probably use coolant instead of grease to lubricate that O-ring, to put it in place, because that's what that O-ring is manufactured for, is to hold coolant back. If you're using an O-ring for oil in your engine, use O-ring to lubricate that. If you're using oil, okay, let me start over. If you're using a O-ring for oil, use oil to lubricate that. Just like when you change your oil filter on your vehicle, you take just a little bit of oil and you put on top of that rubber gasket too before you tighten it. So he made a very good point, and I wanted to mention that and make sure everybody knows that when you're doing any type of O-ring work. So with that being said, that's what I'm going to do with that. I'm just going to take and cut that along there and reuse this gasket. I brought out my plugs and grabbed some pliers and pulled that off of there. This one here just has one of them spring clamps on it, and I'll just reuse a spring clamp for such a small area. Cap, throw that away. Grab the corresponding rubber cap that you want to use and slide it over top of there, just like so. And then grab the little spring-loaded clamp and the pliers. Oops. Of course, that rubber cap is got a different outside diameter. So anyway, I have some more of those little clips there. And then we want to take this stuff here off. All right, with both these clips out of the way, you want to pull these off and put them inside of your line that's on the truck, and then slide it on. It just works a little bit better like that. You want to grab the corresponding size for this. That's just a little bit too big, and I probably don't have any left to fit that size. So let's see, I have some other ones over here in the drawer. All right, with the other plugs I had in the drawer, I switched some things around. I took that one and put over there, and then I brought one and put on that plug right there. So I guess with that done, we'll get that cut out here in just a little bit. But I want to get under the truck and get that rear main seal replaced. I have the stuff over here to do that. I need to get this mess cleaned up too. I tell you, I got my gaskets over here for the rear seal. Here's the rear main seal itself. When you're putting that in, you want to leave that plastic sleeve in there, and these do get put in dry. When you're taking that off, the plate itself is 8mm, and then the ones on the bottom of the pan are 10mm. All right, so I got sidetracked again. I did cut this bracket out. I guess it's not really sidetracked. It's just doing some things needed done. So this is what you're going to be left with. I'm going to be left with for my, I guess, custom made block off plate. I'm going to throw some black paint on it, and this is what we'll have. Here's the gasket laying right here. So that will be just like that on the truck. And then, like I said, I left this tab on there just so I have the ability to fasten that wiring harness back to where it was from the factory location. Like I said, let's throw some black paint on it, and then we'll put that on the truck while we're under there doing the rear main seal. All right, so we're back under the truck, and we're at the actual task at hand, what I wanted to do today. And like I said, these here are an 8mm, and the pan bolts under here are a 10mm. You have 4 pan bolts. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have 6 of the main cap bolts. So we'll take those off. I'm going to be using my impact just like I always do, and just take them off. When I put them back on, I will use a ratchet, just so I don't smash and over torque the bolts on and pinch the gasket on one side or the other. Take those out. So there's those 6 there. Now we need to switch to our 10mm and take out the ones on the bottom. All right, with all of those out, you can take and remove this cover. What I like to do is I've got an old wood chisel. You can use a screwdriver, whatever you want to do, but just use a wood chisel, and you can use a hammer and just work your way all the way around it, whatever you so choose to use. See, I don't even need to use a hammer. That just is coming off by me just prying it. Gonna try, don't know if I'm gonna be able to try and save the pan gasket, but I doubt that that's gonna happen. So what we'll actually do is probably just knife it off here in the corners, and then take some black RTV and recreate that pan gasket here on the bottom. When you put these in, you're gonna wanna make sure and have all of these in before you draw these up from the bottom, because that could throw off these 6 holes up here. If you draw these bottom bolts in first, it'll misalign all those holes. So now we'll just take and remove this cover, and see, it ripped that gasket, so not a big deal. Then we just need to get that pounded out of there and the new one put in. And then this gasket off also. One other thing here, see, this is what I was talking about here. See how this is open right here? That's actually the internal part of your engine. So if you would take all this off and then take off that, or take out that frost plug, if there was any antifreeze in there and run down inside your block, or down inside your pan, then you're stuck. You have to change your oil. You wouldn't have a choice. So with doing so, you know, I drained down my radiator fluid because I knew I was going to be doing this job, and then I removed this up here and then moved down. That just gives you a for instance of what I was talking about, you know, as far as starting at the top and working my way down to the bottom. It's just something that I like to do. It's not a real big deal. It's just me, what I like to do. You guys can do it, or, you know, however you want to. So we'll just get this pan gasket cleaned off of here and get the new seal in here and put it back together, and then probably we'll start doing the clutch assembly. All right, so what I like to do is I take 2 pieces of wood here, or to get it started, actually you can just use one, set it up there, and then get it started on its way out. Go on the inside of that seal so that you don't damage this outside edge, and then just get it started. Just work your way around. All right, as you can see right there, that's how that came out. So it wasn't real easy to get out, nor fun. So with that out, I can get the new one in. And like I said, these get put in dry, and they come with an installation tool to put those in. I don't have the luxury of having a press, so everything just gets done on the floor on my wood block here. And you definitely want to make sure and leave this plastic sleeve in. That's your installation collar for when you put it in the truck itself. So you just want to get it started, get it squared. The edge of your plate here, or the edge of your engine plate is beveled. So you just lay it in there and then just start pounding it in until that surface touches the top of your plate all the way around. And then that is the depth for your rear main seal there. That's all there is to it. Just like that. And like I said, leave that plastic sleeve in, because when you slide that on your engine, that will aid you on putting this in. So there is this piece. It is ready to go back in the truck. Actually, this one here looks like it was out further, so I don't know who put that in, but I don't think they had it in quite far enough. Now that goes in the trash pile with that. So I don't have everything cleaned up underneath the truck yet, so I need to go under there and get that stuff cleaned up, and then I can put that plate back on. Okay, with supper done and out of the way, I'm gonna get this put back together. That goes on the plate like that. Everything is cleaned up underneath the truck, so we just need to take this and put it under there. Need to get the RTV. This is what's gonna go on my pan gasket. I don't know. I wanted to get some spray tack. They didn't see any. They didn't have any here in town. There is so many misconceptions about putting, you know, gasket maker or RTV on the back of these gaskets. I'm gonna put mine together without. Some guys say use it, some guys say don't. I have used it in the past, and usually it causes myself a leak, so I'm gonna rely just on the gasket itself to do this job. I mean, that's what they're there for. If you're not using the gasket, it's one thing, but you're using the gasket, so, you know, utilize the gasket. It's how I feel. You guys may feel different. I am going to use the RTV on the top of the pan because that gasket was ripped, and I'll show you when we get under there. I cut it off and cleaned it all up, and just going to use that. So it is getting late. The sun is going behind the house now and getting cold, so I'm gonna get this on today and gonna call it quits. Gonna probably start back up tomorrow and get the what am I gonna get on next? Probably the adapter plate. That'll get put on and get torqued, and then I guess we'll start installing the clutch finally, and probably amongst other things. I go back and forth so much, and you know, I can never stay on one thing. I get sidetracked, so let's get into there and get this project completed. All right, I have just a little bit of silicone. I ran a bead around the 4 bolt holes and then a line through there. Now we'll just take, and I am gonna use Loctite on, blue Loctite on the bolts going into the block. I'm not gonna use any Loctite on the bolts going into from the pan into the aluminum housing. So basically just take and set it in place like that. My gasket in line, and then you just slide her on. Just like so. Then you remove that, just like that. That's all there is to it. And then like I said, I'm gonna use Loctite on the block bolt that are going into the block itself. Just blue Loctite. And then I'm not going to use anything on the pan bolts. And I'm going to actually tighten the pan bolts up first and draw the pan into the plate. And then I'll go through and tighten up the actual plate bolts. Definitely want to make sure and use enough gasket or RTV on this, because you did take out that gasket. When tightening up these bolts, you just start at the top and work your way down to the bottom. There's not very much torque that needs to go on these. I think it's like 18 foot-pounds maybe. And that's all there is to it. Just finish tightening up those, and that's all you need to do. Tomorrow I'll finish up and I'll put on the adapter plate, and we'll be good to go to get started on putting the clutch in. I did get one other thing done before I'm losing all light. You can see I got my block off plate done, and then the factory harness eyelet reattached there, and then I just put another one in right there. Hopefully you can see it, but anyway, I think that'll work out pretty good. And it didn't cost me anything but $1.99 for the gasket. So I think we are done for tonight. We have lost all light. You can see I had my light up there, so. All right, I am done for the night. As you can see there, I have lost pretty much all light. Have just a little bit left. Just in case you were wondering, the gasket that I used was a Felpro. I use a lot of their gaskets, and it's BS 40650, and that is the rear main seal gasket that I used. Like I said, guys, I appreciate you watching very much. I'm going in the house, getting a shower, and calling it a night. So like, comment, subscribe, links in the description. We'll talk to you guys later on. Bye bye.